Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of Everquest Old School. Crap, hold on a second. Let my pet tank that off of me a little bit. So we are over at the Orc camp yet again. Yesterday, unfortunately, was a very short day. I had planned on getting a few levels and maybe even going over to a different zone, but unfortunately they had a patch, so all the servers came down. And by the time they came back up, I actually had to leave to go to work. So, hoping today that we might be able to get a few levels, stay on for a bit longer than normal, and power through some of them. Let's see, what level is this guy? Oh, he's red. Now, my job mainly is to use my pet and to throw on Engulfing Darkness, or Clinging Darkness is what I have at this level. For the main reason so it doesn't run away. It makes it easier on the casters. They don't have to get up and move too much. And it sounds kind of lazy to say that, but the less they have to move, the more they can med. The more they can med, the more damage they can do. And therefore, the faster we can kill. So it's in your interest to let them be lazy in that respect. You do want to make sure they're still paying attention. You know, if they're not casting or doing anything, then they're just, you know, basically being a waste of space. They're not sucking experience away from you, because I do believe you actually get more experience when you have a full group than when you don't. So it still may be better to have somebody who's not doing anything than to have a group that's short one. But if you can find somebody else to take their place who will do more, then, you know, obviously that would be the best thing to have. Oh great, my Clinging Darkness wore off. There we go. It's kind of a waste to do it on that guy, but go ahead and attack the Orc. Get that one as well. Now usually with Engulfing Darkness is the one I keep referring to because it's the one I used on my Shadow Knight all the time. You would only cast it on them around 20 to 30% left of their life. Because it would take that long for their life to go down. I mean, if you cast it on the beginning of the fight, by the end of the fight, it was already worn off. Even like halfway through the fight, it would already be worn off, and you'd have to cast it again, which is not necessarily a bad thing. It does do damage. It is a dot, but it's not your most efficient dot. As far as damage goes, you can use one that does far, far more damage. Let's go ahead and attack that. Got an Orc Legionnaire. I guess I'll use some of my other dots on the Legionnaire, although he's probably... Oh no, he's not resisting them anymore. He used to resist every single one, and it was just pointless to cast anything on him. Now normally I wouldn't use all my dots so quickly and then sit down. That's a huge aggro you know, pull on that, but because they're doing so much damage, I don't feel the need to be too safe, too cautious, I should say, on something like that. They're holding their own. I'm gonna go over here and heal my pet real quick if I have enough power. There we go. So you can see if you're sitting down to where the tank is pulling, even if you haven't done anything yet at all, you know, he will still go towards you because it's kind of an insult. You know, can you imagine if you were getting in a fight in real life and, you know, there was two groups of your friends and the other guys, and one of them was just sitting there watching? I mean, it would be an insult that they didn't even need their full group, you know. So I guess that's how they take it. Doesn't really translate too well into real life. I don't really see anybody just sitting there watching unless they're have no interest whatsoever in what's going on. There we go. Oh, they're kicking the butt out of this one, man. And some of these creatures run a lot faster than others. Some of them have more or less life than they need to run. Some of them, you get them all down to like 1%, and then they start to turn and run, which is too late because they're already at crawl speed. Whereas others, in fact, I can pick that up and give it to my pet. Others will start to turn and run at like 5%, some of them even like at 10%. So the more life they have, the faster they're going to run. The faster they're going to run, the longer it's going to take you to kill them, because you're no longer just standing still anymore. You also have to keep in mind that, you know, if it has a lot of life, you're doing like 1 or 2 hits behind it. You know, it's going to take some time. It's going to suck, really, is what it's going to be, which is why that slowing spell is so nice. Now I'm looting just to get rid of some of these corpses. They're getting in my way. I don't actually have to click, but it's the old-fashioned way that I'm used to, that I prefer if I can do it. And when there's just too many bodies, it's just, it's really hard to click through all that mess. If you're the tank and you see the bodies building up, you know, loot up a few of them. I know it sucks to loot as the tank because it stops you from pooling. It also weighs you down with all the copper and stuff like that. But, you know, it's going to help out your casters a lot, especially if they're not raid worthy, I should say, because if you're going on a raid, you should know how to cycle through the different targets without having to click on them. Knowing how to do it and, you know, doing it are two different things. I'm doing pretty good, though. Now, I got meditation at level 8. It is something you have to go back and put a point into, just 1 point, and then you'll start increasing it as you sit there and meditate. But if you don't do that, then you will not have, it's not the scarab. That's a giant scarab right there. If you kill those scarabs and you get those, I don't know what they're called, the capacers or whatever, the big circular things that look like their chest, those actually sell for like 6 or 7 gold a piece back at the shop. Of course, they take up an entire slot. That kind of sucks. But they are really good cash compared to a lot of the other junk that drops here that you can stack, but only sells for 4 or 5 copper a piece. So even a whole stack, you're only going to get a few gold out of it. So if you're trying to save up for your next level spells, which is what I'm trying to do, then it is a good idea to loot some of these things. Also, if you're working on your trade skills, the lionesses, sorry guys, the lions and the lionesses are pretty good for their hides. Kill it already, there you go. So I'll show you, there's nothing on this one. They usually drop at least 1 hide. Sometimes I've seen them drop 2 or 3, which I don't think is what's supposed to happen, but they do it regardless. We're just having tons of little ads that don't really give us any experience, but they do annoy us. As you can see, we just made this group. Nobody really knows this guy, but he showed up just to help out. Just the kindness of people. Literally every single time I've done one of these videos for you guys, somebody's been here to help. Now, that's probably more common here in this zone than pretty much any other zone, because I'll take that. Because there's so many people that are high level sitting here waiting to sell stuff. A lot of them will get bored and be like, you know, I might as well help people out. That's what people did for me when I was low level. So they'll come over here, and they're always just constantly just waiting for a group to spawn or come over here and try to form, you know, and then they help you with the pools and tanking so that you can actually get some experience. Of course, you know, if you don't want to wait for the goodness of people, you can always rent or buy somebody's services to help you turn in for the belts. Yeah, there is a turn in for those belts, guys, but it's only for the good races. So I haven't shown you a video of doing that just yet. I'll bring my paladin or my cleric over here and show you where to turn those in and how much experience you get at different levels and things of that sort. I'm afraid I can't really tell her too much more than that. I don't know what the name of the NPC is or anything like that. I'll have to look it up online or go over there and see if I can find it myself. Ah, he resisted that one. But he didn't resist that one. I almost got aggro just from that alone. See if I can put Clinging Darkness back on him. There we go. It worked this time. Although he's still running away. Ah, not anymore. And that's me getting ahead of the tank, or a guy who was tanking it for us out of the kindness of his heart. I was a puller in another life, so it's very, very hard habit for me to break, apparently. I've been trying to go out of my way to make sure I don't, but every once in a while, that little bug of you're not doing anything gets at me and be like, you know, go pull something. So occasionally you have people who ask questions like that. Is it okay for me to go eat or go to the bathroom, or I need to go walk the dog or take the dog out for, 10 or 15 minutes? And it's really up to the group to decide. If the group's going really well, there's no reason to break it up. If they leave, they're less likely to come back within a reasonable amount of time to join your group. And if they do, leave, you're going to lose that bonus experience also. Trying to find another person, depending on where you're at, can be very, very difficult. Because, like say in Sev, if you're down on the bottom of the dungeon and say the whole zone isn't camp crazy like it normally is, then you will have to not only teleport or evac out of the zone or to the top of the zone so that you can start working your way back down, because there's no way one person can find their way all the way back down unless they're like a rogue and can sneak or something like that, or unless the zone's camp crazy. And then if they know the way, they can kind of weave their way down, hopefully, if they're careful and cautious about the whole thing. I was wondering why that lioness wasn't attacking us. And of course, she's AFK right now, so she doesn't even realize she's getting hit. At least it's not attacking her now. There we go. Toss some dots on the snake, kill it off real quick. Yeah, those dots should kill it alone. See just how fast that one ran. That's because it was running at 15%, whereas the other one didn't start running till like 2% or something along those lines. So, as the snarer, whether you're just a bard who's using a snare song, or a druid who's casting his snare, or the Shadow Knight or Necro, whoever you might be, you need to be aware of, you know, the different limits at which they will start to run so that you can be ready for it. Especially in rooms. You know, I keep comparing it to dungeons, but dungeons ultimately will house the best experience and usually the best loot. Not always, but for the most part, the best loot inside dungeons as well. And so that's going to be where you spend most of your time. And dungeons can go wrong very, very easily because everything is so cramped inside this area. You know, you got one room, and those are all surrounded by hallways and other rooms that connect. And there's creatures who roam the hallways, or, you know, 5 or 6 creatures in every room. And so you can see that if you're not doing things just right, you can have a train that's just so ungodly, there's no way you're going to survive with your whole group. You know, the whole group's going to wipe just because it's something you did. So if the creature's going to run out here, it's not that big of a deal. But in a very closed, confined area, if he makes it outside that door of the room, it can cause some serious trouble. And it's not like the whole group can go running after him. You know, the only person who's supposed to leave the room is the tank. And so people can be very cautious and kind of sit there. And if it leaves the room, basically the tank has to finish it. And that can get very messy very quickly as well, because usually a tank doesn't do that much damage. So you want to make sure you're very, very, you know, cautious and on the ball when it comes to using your snares. There's an apprentice in there. Dot that guy. That should kill him right there. And I've left my little button up over here so that you guys can see, or my inventory, so that you guys can see what kind of experience I'm getting. It's not too bad. It's not, you know, as great as I've seen before, but for level 9, it's still pretty good. I think we'll be able to level pretty quick here. And normally by probably level 9 to level 10, you probably should go to Orc Camp 2. You know, if there's people there. Unfortunately, there was nobody there right now. I actually had to start a camp, or a group here at Orc Camp 1 today. As you can see, a lot of these are green. This one's even. That one's dark blue, so that's not bad. That's a great place to come if you got a little bit of cash and you want to see if there's any good items. I would not be too quick on buying an item that you need until you've done some research. Find out, you know, what's the average price, because you can sometimes find some really, really good deals here. But sometimes you can get ripped off quite a bit too. You know, it's... Let's see if I can land anything on this guy. Yeah, he's dark red. So even at level 9, he's too difficult. We're not doing very much damage to him at all. Let's see if I can get... Nope, resistant disease cloud as well. What about clinging darkness? Do that one again. That sucks. At least with a cleric, I think that's pretty much the only class that I can think of. Like, a druid can heal, but he also has a lot of good direct damage spells, like I said before, snare and things of that sort. And if those won't go off, usually he won't go to zones that are too high. But a cleric, he can go to a zone a lot higher level than he should be, as long as everybody else is reasonable to the level, and he's within that level range that he can still get experience. Because his spells don't get resisted. You know, he's healing the other players, and the other player doesn't resist his spell because they're too high. The only downside would be that he would have less power and less powerful heal spells than they're used to, but that's not always the case depending on the level difference. Sometimes you just got your new level heal spell and you're not going to get another one for, say, 10 or 15 levels, then you have the same one that everybody else has. You just have a less or smaller amount of mana pool, which can be offset with your equipment. You know, you may have better equipment than they do, and therefore you actually have more mana than they do. Miss. Yeah, they're very, very hard to hit, and he's going to go ahead and leave after this fight. So you're doing it okay. This would definitely be a fight that we would not be able to do without him, but we can loot some of these corpses. That's one thing I don't like, is that you can't put backpacks or chest or anything like that in other backpacks. You know, I could shove a whole bunch of duffel bags inside of a backpack in real life. That's not an impossible thing to do. Leave that there. Maybe somebody else wants it. Chunk of meat. Why didn't he go attack? Actually, I'll take that sword. I don't want that. I'm working on my blacksmithing, so being able to sharpen rusty weapons are kind of nice. It lets me work on it, as well as I can then give those weapons to some low-level person inside the zone, and he gets a little bit better weapon than you would normally be able to find just roaming around. Now, it's not some of the great stuff that I was given, but then I'm not really that high level. I don't have that kind of stuff to just toss around. I don't even have it on my guy yet, so you know, I hand out what I can hand out. Hopefully they can use it and they appreciate it to some extent. About a bubble of experience since I started this video, and what has that been right now? About 15 minutes, 20 minutes? Wow, somebody's already there to replace the other guy who just left. It's crazy how many people were just waiting in line to help other people out. Fastest way to level on your weapon skill. That's a hard one. Because you can't just find a creature that's too low level for you to sit there and hit over and over and over again like you could if you're a caster who never gets hit and you're trying to work on your defense or something like that. You can find a low level creature that can just sit there and hit you over and over again, but your life regenerates fast enough that it never really goes down. If you're trying to do a weapon skill, you're actually doing damage to the creature. And as your weapon skill gets better and better, you'll hit harder and harder. And so that's just a really, really hard thing to find. Attacking stuff and putting points into it is all you really can do. Just like the guy said, but if you're in a group, to me that would be the best way. Just let people know that's what you're doing. And say, hey, you know, can I, if we're doing really well, you know, be like, hey, can I stand up for a little while and work on my weapon skill here and there? You know, you don't want to do it to the detriment of the group. You want to make sure that you still have power and that you're still casting and doing that kind of stuff, but you can slow down on it a little bit. Instead of doing your full amount of damage per second, you're gonna do maybe half, you know. And if that's okay with the group, then go for it. And within an amount of, I would say probably an hour or 2 hours of being in that group and earning experience and standing up and using your weapon every so often, you should have it maxed out, and that's at like max level. You know, from like 0 all the way up to level 50 or something. So It's not too terribly difficult, but it is something you need to be aware of if switching from one weapon to another weapon at higher levels. Casters, again, really not that important for their weapon, but tanks run into that issue as well. So sometimes what people will do is they'll find out, you know, what is going to be the end weapon. You know, what's their epic? Is their epic one-handed slashing, or one-handed blunt, two-handed, whatever? You find out what that's going to be, and then at a low level, you just get yourself, you know, a little crappy one. And therefore, when you finally do get that better weapon that everybody dreams of one day, you'll be ready for it. So that's one way to go, you know. Whereas rogues tend to favor daggers, one-handed daggers, and they'll use 2 of them. You know, it's something that, if you're aware of what the majority of the weapons people are using at higher levels, you can kind of skip some of that hassle. Loot up some of these corpses. I think I went the entire day yesterday without ever looting once, so... You can see the prices change all the time. So in real life, usually if the prices are too high... Strongest heal, but I can cast it a lot. In real life, the prices will go down as time goes on. On this one... It's not really that set. It's really what people are hunting. If a new zone or a new expansion comes out and people stop hunting the old zones, then the prices for those items will eventually start to rise. At the very beginning, all that stuff is going to come down way in price because now there's a whole new set of gear that's better than the old set of gear that people are usually getting rid of. Now that's not always the case in Everquest 1. Everquest 2, that's definitely the case with each and every expansion. In this one, there are certain items that just, you know, are always better, like the gold and the fruity boots. I don't even know what that is. Giant scarab egg sack. Okay, that's disgusting. But the gold and the fruity boots, I think have 9 wisdom and 9 intelligence on them, and some AC, I believe. They were what my cleric was wearing for the longest time. I mean, he was still wearing it all the way up until, I believe, like 3 expansions ago or something. So, you won't be replacing your armor all that much. Well, some of it anyways, but some of the other stuff, like with every expansion, there always seemed to be like 1 or 2 items that were just really, really cool. Like the FBSS in Lower Guck. Yeah, I think it's Lower Guck. Right next to the King's Room. That thing added haste. It was really the only item in the game that you could get that would add haste to your character naturally. And that made a huge difference for classes. Sorry guys for the coughing, and I have a little bit of a cold. But it would make a huge difference for DPS classes, because if you look at your weapon, and I'll show you one here in a second. So this is my weapon right here, and it does 9 damage and 37 delay. If you lower that delay, that weapon all of a sudden becomes a lot more uber than it was a second ago, because now it's 9 damage with, say, 27 delay. That's pretty good. Or if you could get it down to like 7 delay, it would be going off every couple, you know, it'd be kicking the crap out of these creatures with that kind of delay. But you can't do that. You can't lower delay on weapons unless you speed up your guy. And that's what haste does. It speeds you up so that you attack more often, faster. And so you could get something like rogues always had a kind of a small damage compared to most weapons, but a really, really quick delay. So they would attack quite a bit. And then you throw on the haste, and all of a sudden they were just stabbing for like 9 damage apiece. and it added up, like dramatically added up. And so with something like that, it changed the game for them. It was a big improvement. So you can imagine how hard they were to get, because everybody wanted, well, not just rogues, but you know, the tanks wanted one so they could do more damage. Because as I said before, if you're the puller, you don't necessarily have time to sit down and med. So a lot of the time, your aggro came from your taunt button and from the damage you were doing, which was usually pretty small. So the faster you could attack, the more aggro you could hold. Let me know when you stop getting experience and I will shove off. Well, I think she's safe. She's the same level I am, so... Yeah, we're all the same level, level 9. Don't know what level he is, but... It's going good so far. Waiting for him to pull before it gets too much. Back up, back up. There we go. Yeah, she was getting hit too hard, so I went ahead and pulled it off of her. At least I can heal myself. There we go. And she went ahead and rooted it, which is a nice little thing to do if you have that casters getting hit. Because, you know, if the thing's rooted, obviously it can't move, so it will switch targets and start attacking whoever's near it. And hopefully that's probably the tank who's trying to get aggro back, or trying to get the taunt to click on the target as much as possible before a root will break again. Because he still has that aggro in his head, he still has that counter going on, so if you still have top aggro, when root breaks, he's going to go towards you again. But usually, the person who casted root on him will take the top, you know, because he doesn't like being rooted, just like you don't like being rooted, so... Yellow one and a green one. Let's go ahead and attack the yellow one first, bring it back. There we go. And again, you know, I'm pulling where I probably shouldn't, but, you know, if ours is being a little lazy today, he may have other things going on. He may be getting lag, who knows. My only pulling spell is super buggy. That makes the mobs teleport all over the place, so... Just go send that guy to kill right there. He's green, he's gonna die pretty quick. Oh, that would be perfect. So I'm always interested in finding out what you guys, the ones of you who play, are you guys playing with your wives? Are you playing by yourself? Does your wife play? Does your husband play? do your kids play? You know, what kind of groups should we expect at higher levels? Is it going to be, you know, couples really that are kind of grouping together that are going through the game, or is it just kind of like all around, pretty much everybody that you can possibly imagine? There's a belt on the apprentice. Ugh, I don't know if we can handle Lord Shreen. Comes another one. There we go. Enchanter Cleric combo. I mean, come on. Those guys are going to have no problem finding groups later on. Clerics are insane with just having groups, you know, thrown at them. And then an Enchanter with their mana buff and mezzing capabilities, that's just going to be crazy. Yeah, I wouldn't even try them. It'd wipe us all out, and then people would be like, oh, I'll leave, and things of that sort. So we'd make more experience just leaving him alone. But you always have somebody who wants to push the envelope and try it out. I don't mind that, as long as you're with a sturdy group who can handle the defeat. Yeah, level 17? I don't think so. I don't mind my pet dying if I had more bone chips, but those are hard to come by right now. You'd have to take time out of your day to go over to a low zone, right where we created our character, and just kind of sit there and kill skeletons for a while. Or if we had high-level druid buffs, yeah. And I've done that a little bit, but sometimes you get in these groups, and they're crazy. Your pet will die like 4 or 5 times in a row, and they pretty much go through all your bone chips that you just spent like an hour getting, so. Or you could just buy a whole stack for like 20 platinum, which is more money than I even have right now, so. I kept thinking if I could get enough extra bone chips I would consider selling so I could afford my next level spells, but that never really happens. I have to find some other way to make a little bit of cash. I don't believe he actually has a mez at this level, which is a shame because that would be a good spell to give a low level to get used to it, you know. There she is, right there is our cleric. And they pretty much did the exact same name except the one has an A on it and the other one doesn't. I'll wait for her to get an invite, or he won't. Oh great, he got Lord Sheep. why it's nice to have fatigue depth if you're the Fuller in case you get something like that. She was feeling pretty, you know, pretty insignificant because she's not a twink or anything like that. She doesn't have any great armor. But, you know, everybody has to start somewhere. And I don't hold it against those people who have really great stuff because they worked for it, you know, in their own way. They made a character, got them up to a high level, and then they sat there and either camped the creatures they needed or you know, camped other creatures and then made money off of it and then bought the stuff they needed. So one way or another, they worked for what they have. What level is he? I don't know how good the experience is on these belts, but they don't drop nearly as much as they do over in Crushbone. And those offer some pretty good experience, so... Ooh, rusty. There's another belt. Yeah, if you run into the tunnel, I do believe there's a guard over there somewhere, but most likely somebody else will help you out. I've run through that tunnel several times before, and you know, you'll have like people jump on it. Some people will see that they get experience off of it, some people will just see that you're in help or in need of help, and they're off for it, so... Kill that Shadow Wolf with a dot. You see, it pays to have full power. You may be thinking I'm not doing enough, but when you run into issues like this with you know, a bad pull or just a spawn or something along those lines, and you need that extra power and don't have it, you know, that can be some serious trouble. So I'd rather have it, not use it all, and save it for those times where I really, really need it. There we go. Close this down. You guys have gotten a gist of just how much experience we're getting off of each one of those kills at this level. He almost had me stunned too. Especially these guys. This guy gets so much in the way just because they're so big. Giants are the same way. If you don't loot those guys, it only takes like 2 or 3 to block everybody's screen from being able to see anything else. Let's see, what are they giving me? Helmet Restoration. I believe that makes your health go up faster. I got Poison. Resist. Oh, Clarity. Encourage. Let's see if mine stacks with that. guess it didn't take. Don't know what she means by banana. Other than maybe she's hungry. Good enough to attack more than one creature at the same time. Especially with my dots, you know, there's only so many spells I have to cast, and then I have to wait for them to run out before I can cast them again. With 2 creatures, I can do 2 sets of dots. Yeah, apparently nobody else got that. I don't know if it's like a Marco Polo type thing, we're supposed to say something else or what, but it's a little bit beyond me. There we go. So many bodies over here people haven't looted. I'm not talking about the creatures we're killing, I'm talking about just their own bodies. That's a good sign that this is a camp, if there's a lot of bodies there. Or it could just be the entrance to a zone. You'll find a lot of bodies being dragged there and just left there for reses later on. Sit down. This one, it's too far. Yeah, too far for my pet. There we go. I just gotta get them all the way back to camp. Oh, holy crap, who's that? Man, NPCs in this area. So I guess if you're evil, you definitely want to watch out for whoever that was, that roamer. Man, we were doing so good there. Let's see, boat walk. That would be NPCs, not MPCs, but okay. Lesser shielding. Darkness, poison bolts, and disease cloud. So a bit of a run back. he's trying to buy these belts. He didn't say how much for before I died, but I'm pretty sure it'd be a few platinum apiece. Now, if you guys like seeing the corpse runs back, you know, put that down in comments as well. If you guys want me to edit these out so you guys don't have to sit through them, I'll be happy to do that as well. Just some of you guys like to see the old feel to it, you know, including the frustration and the sometimes anger of trying to get your corpse back. And even though I have some pretty horrible memories of some of the worst CRs I've ever had to ever endure, they do make for really, really good stories. And now, not having to actually do it myself, you know, just being able to relive it, it's not really that bad. It's actually kind of funny now that I think about it. But at the time, I was just so aggravated and so disgusted with having to do, you know, 15, 16, 17 zone CR with no druids ever on to give you a teleport. Druids, you know, my brother was a druid, and I always gave him the hardest time because, frankly, I hated them so much because they were never on, and when they were on, they never wanted to do a teleport. I would sit there at the entrance to a zone just begging for teleports. I'd be paying 300, 400, 500 platinum for a teleport, and Seb, nobody would give me one. Druid would finally come in there, and oh, he's going down to a group, and you know, I can't really blame somebody for not wanting to do teleports every moment of every second that they're on, because a druid could technically do that and make just tons of cash. And at a certain point, they no longer want the cash. They don't care. They just want to get some experience or some, you know, play the game, really. So I can't blame them too bad. But at the time, it was just so ridiculous that you could just never find one. And I don't even mention wizard teleporting, because there just was never any wizards. Ever. You know, like, I think I've played with probably 2 wizards, and those were during raids. So, you know, it was just one of those classes that, at least on my server, you know, nobody ever leveled up too high because they were incredibly difficult. They not only could not solo at all, at least at the time I was playing. They might be able to now if you really knew what you were doing, but you couldn't solo with them. And in groups, they were pretty hard to control because they did so much damage per spell. So a lot of the time, the creature would be fooled, and they would be forced to really do nothing for the first, you know, fourth of its life. That was some good XP. Yeah, well, they had to do nothing for the first fourth of its life. Otherwise, they would get the aggro. And then even after that, even with all that damage being done to it before they even put on a spell, they could hit their, like, Ice Comet spell on it to do, like, half of its life in one hit. And then the creature would freak out and go over there and smack them, and they die in one hit, too. So they really had to walk the tightrope every single fight. And so it was very stressful, I'd imagine. And just not very many people wanted to play that. Not very many people wanted to risk death at every second of every fight, simply for doing what they were supposed to be doing, which was attacking. Like, if they didn't use their spells, they didn't have to worry about it, but then they weren't doing anything. They didn't have, like, a pet they could send in, and as far as I know, they didn't really have any debuffs or anything like that. You know, I'm kind of ignorant on the wizards because I just never grouped with them. And unless I grouped with them, I never really got to talk to one, and if I didn't get to talk to one, I didn't learn about their class. So I'm not one of those people who would go online after I was playing the game to research stuff. I was one of those people who enjoyed finding out about the stuff from other people who, you know, figured it out themselves or came to the conclusion from playing the game themselves. So let's see if I can get back, get some experience. So how much experience did I lose? Oh, that's a pretty decent amount of experience to lose too. Get him some more weapons, though. alcohol is fun, especially for a tank. It actually increases your strength a little bit, but it decreases a lot of the other stats like your intelligence and wisdom. So, please speak. I guess she was wondering if any of us were real because nobody was ever saying anything. I don't type as much when I'm doing these videos as I should. It's kind of hard to hold more than one conversation with you guys and then with somebody else and concentrate on what's going on in the game and making sure I'm doing what I need to do. As you can see, I still haven't learned my lesson. I'm still pooling when I probably should. Okay, so now that we're back, I'm going to go ahead and end the video here, guys. Please hit the like button, subscribe, leave comments below. Like I said before, I would love to find out what you guys are playing, who's playing with who, what characters do you like, things of that sort. So go ahead and leave those below. I'll get back to you as soon as I possibly can. And I want to thank you guys for watching.